do you even feel at this point that Harry even wants that? Or do you feel like the royal family wants that as well?
I think the royal family primarily wants to look after its reputation and its future. I think that's one of the dilemmas for the people within it. You know, the Queen very famously has a great sense of duty, and having become Queen somewhat unexpectedly and at a young age, she really took that on board and took that very seriously. I think that Harry has made a different decision, and that's his to make. You know, he's not the heir. He was never going to be king. He's what they rather unkindly call the spare. And that means that he's made a different decision himself. His decision is to try to have a more fulfilling personal life than to make his life a fulfilling part of the royal family's continued existence. So I think that they have different priorities here, and that's perhaps why we're seeing these massively different behaviors, but they aren't necessarily compatible. And whether he will want to sort of pull back a bit and put his behavior more in line with their desires as well will be part of a negotiation between the two. And that'll be one that happens behind closed doors, I think. They won't want us to see every detail of their discussions about it. But I do think that they'll try and make some sort of peace, if not for personal reasons, for more professional ones, let's say.
Right. Do you think Harry having a baby pretty much any day now, I would imagine, is going to bring them closer together? Or maybe?
Who knows? I mean, I don't know how the royal family really is about children and grandchildren. You know, they say that they are close with them, and Prince Philip, who just recently passed away, was said to have been very active in his own children's upbringing, whereas his wife was quite busy as the Queen. So certainly, you know, again, on a human level, I imagine they would want to have an active part in their new granddaughter's life. Whether they'll be allowed to or not, I don't know, or whether they will want to, as we said, bearing in mind what's going on now, is another matter. But I certainly think on a basic human level, that's very sad for both sides, and probably sad for the children as well. But rewind a bit as well. I think that Harry and Meghan are also massively using their children, both Archie, who's born, and their as yet unborn daughter, as part of their PR stunts. I mean, again, having said they wanted privacy and distance from the press, they then named the new organization that they're going to run all of their activities through after their son. So it bears his name. That inextricably links it to him, brings him into the view and the glare of the press and the public. And again, I think that just doesn't look like the behavior of people who are trying to seek privacy for their children. I think the difference in understanding of what privacy is here is an interesting one. They say through their friends and sources that privacy doesn't mean invisibility, but I think that the way that's interpreted on the other side is that privacy, you know, involves a certain amount of give and take. If you're constantly courting attention, even playing on the more gossipy, soap opera-y zoo side of your life, for example, putting out this idea that Archie's first words were Grandma Diana. I mean, how much more calculating could that seem? Even if it is true, who knows if it's true, it seems a remarkable piece of information to put out there. These are two people who know full well that that would get headlines around the world, get people talking around the world. Princess Diana, yes, his mother, but also this icon of publicity in the press and a sort of cautionary tale to all, not least the two boys, of what can happen when that goes horribly wrong. So I think they're courting attention massively, using even the name of their own son and now perhaps the birth of their daughter. These are not things that they're doing in private. And then they act shocked when they do get attention that they don't like in return. And I think that's part of the problem. That's one of the reasons why some accuse them of hypocrisy.
Yeah, I mean, if Archie was saying Grandma Diana as a first word, I mean, he is a genius because
right. And in the Oprah interview, I think they said that one of his first words was crocodile. You know, yeah. I mean, these are. Listen, it feels ridiculous for serious people to be bickering and arguing about the first words of an infant that we don't know, who's the child of people we don't know. But ultimately, it's not because that's our interest necessarily. It's because they're putting it out there. You can't move for Prince Harry stories and Meghan stories and Archie stories at the moment. And there's only one reason for that. It's that they keep putting them out there. So it's very strange that they continue to claim that they have worthy intentions only and that they don't want that attention. If they didn't want it, there's a very easy way for them to avoid it. They could just keep a bit quiet.
Yeah. I mean, going into Diana, I mean, do you think that she would be proud of the moves that he has made? I mean, he says that, you know, he feels her presence now more than he's ever had before, and that she would be proud of him. I mean, do you think that she would be?
Who knows? I mean, I didn't know Princess Diana. I remember the day that she died very well. I remember watching it all map out on TV. I remember the controversies in her life before. I remember the great affection the British people and people around the world had for her. But she was also a mixed, conflicted person who sometimes sought and courted publicity in a way that people said wasn't advisable. She was a victim of that attention that she got as much as somebody who capitalized on it and used it for the causes she thought were important. I think in that respect, yes, Harry's doing much the same thing. And I don't mean to be totally negative about him. If we take at face value what he and Meghan say, they are doing this at least partly for good reasons. They do want to draw attention to some very important issues in the lives of regular people. But I just think that many think they're going about it in a very strange way. So would Diana be proud? Well, I hope for his sake that she would. I hope that any mother would look at the actions of their children and think that they are proud of the good intentions, even if they would perhaps have reservations about the methods they're using sometimes. I can't say what Diana would have thought. I can only say what people around here are saying now.
Right. And, another big story this week was, of course, Lord Dyson's investigation into the Panorama interview. What did you make of Harry and William's statement? I mean, Harry basically said that this was one of the reasons why she lost her life.
Again, I think that Lord Dyson investigation has a couple of parts to it. One is generally about the BBC and its methods in getting that interview and how trustworthy it is. But the other is the Diana story itself. So I think that Diana was perhaps somewhat tricked by Martin Bashir, the interviewer, it seems, with the use of forged documents. And that's something the BBC will have to answer for, especially as they had a covered up investigation of their own, which really found out the truth and then hid it. However, there are plenty of rumours out there, and have been for years, that Diana was preparing to give a TV interview to someone, and that maybe this edged it for Bashir, but perhaps it didn't necessarily make her do anything she wouldn't have done otherwise with another interviewer. And so I think in that respect, whether we can say her life would have been different, and indeed her death might have been different had she not done the Martin Bashir interview, well, no one will ever know about these sorts of what ifs. It's certainly ethically dubious that he managed to secure that interview the way he did. And that certainly could have had an effect on her and her mental state going forwards. But as I said, Diana was somebody who also understood how the press worked and publicity worked. I don't think even with a bit of trickery from forged documents, you necessarily go and do something like give a primetime TV interview. Millions of people will watch and not expect there to be some repercussions. I suspect she had made her mind up when she uttered those lines, that there were 3 of them in that marriage, and that was a bit crowded. Indeed, plenty of people have said that she didn't write the lines herself. She prepared them in advance with script writers. If those sorts of things are true, that means that it wasn't just Martin Bashir's fault. And again, the rewriting and recasting of people's histories and reputations, even after they are quite some years dead, is another interesting aspect of this story.